My sister arrived from overseas with extravagant gifts. A Swiss watch, French perfumes, and an Italian leather handbag. All of them for me. Later, my son got on the phone and started putting the gifts in his car, saying his wife would use them more than I would, that he was going to take everything for her. That was when my sister lost her patience. But before I get to that moment, I have to tell you how it all began, because none of this happened out of the blue. Nothing breaks without having been cracking for a long time. I am 69 years old, and for months, I hadn't felt that warmth in my chest. That morning, the phone rang, and it was Paula, my younger sister, calling me from Italy. Her voice came across the line clear and excited. She told me she was coming to visit me in 2 weeks, that she was bringing gifts, things she had bought thinking of me, things she knew I would like. When I hung up the phone, I stayed sitting in the kitchen, staring at the wall. I didn't cry, but I felt something similar to relief. It had been so long since anyone had told me they had thought of me, that they had chosen something especially for me. Paula was always like that since we were little girls. She was the one who defended me on the school playground, the one who lent me her shoes when mine broke, the one who saved half of her sweet roll to give to me in secret when Mom couldn't afford to buy enough food. When she left to live in Europe 15 years ago, I felt like I lost my only ally. But we never stopped talking. Every month she called me. She asked how I was doing. She truly listened to me. And now she was coming back with her hands full, with her heart full, thinking of me. I looked out the kitchen window and saw the empty yard. The plants I used to care for so lovingly were now dry. No one helped me water them. No one asked if I needed anything. No one noticed when I spent entire days without speaking to anyone. Theodore, my son, lived 3 blocks from my house. He was 42 years old. He had been married to Ivana for 8 years. He worked at a logistics company. He earned well. He had a car. He had everything he needed, but he hardly ever came to visit me. And when he came, it was fast. He would come in, grab a cup of coffee, look at his phone, say he had to go, that Ivana was waiting for him, that they had things to do. I never said anything. I just nodded, smiled. I told him not to worry, that I was fine, that I understood he was busy. But inside, I felt an emptiness that grew bigger and bigger, a silence that weighed like the house was full of rocks. Sometimes I wondered if I had done something wrong, if I had been a bad mother, if I deserved this silent but very real abandonment. After Paula's call, I spent the rest of the day cleaning the house. I wanted everything to be perfect when she arrived. I wanted her to see that I was still the same, that I hadn't fallen apart, that I still had dignity. I swept. I washed the dishes. I dusted the furniture. I changed the sheets on the bed in the guest room. I put fresh flowers in a vase on the dining table. By the time I finished, it was already night. I sat on the sofa with a cup of tea and dialed Theodore's number. I wanted to tell him that his aunt was coming. I thought maybe that would encourage him to visit more often during those days, that maybe he would want to spend time with us. The phone rang 5 times before he answered. His voice sounded tired, distracted. I told him Paula was coming in 2 weeks, that she was bringing gifts, that it would be nice if he came to see her, too. There was a brief silence on the other end. Then he said he would see if he could, that he had a lot of work, that he would let me know. He didn't say he was happy. He didn't ask how Paula was. He didn't say anything that made me feel like he cared. I hung up the phone and stared at the dark screen. I felt that heaviness again, that emptiness that nothing could fill. I went to bed early that night, but I couldn't rest well. I dreamed of my childhood, of Paula and me running through the fields where we grew up, of my mother calling us in for dinner, of my father sitting on the porch, rocking chair, smoking his cigar. I woke up before dawn. The house was cold, silent, empty. I got up and made coffee. I sat by the window and watched as the sun began to light up the streets. Neighbors were leaving for work. Children were walking towards school. The world kept moving as if nothing were wrong. But I felt stuck, like I was waiting for something that never arrived. The 2 weeks passed slowly. Every day I checked the calendar. I counted the days left. I imagined the moment Paula would knock on the door. Her smile, her hug. Theodore didn't call again. I didn't reach out to him either. I was already used to his indifference. I no longer expected anything from him. 3 days before Paula arrived, I went to the market to buy groceries. I wanted to cook everything she liked. Beef chili, cornbread, apple pie, sweet potato casserole. I spent almost all the money I had saved up, but I didn't care. Paula deserved that and more. When I got home with the full bags, I saw Theodore's car parked in front of my door. My heart skipped a beat. I thought maybe he had come to help me. That maybe he had remembered that his aunt would be arriving soon. But when I went inside, I found him sitting on the sofa looking at his phone. He didn't even look up when I walked in. I asked him if he needed anything. He told me he had just stopped by because Ivana had asked him to pick up some pots I had loaned her months ago. He didn't ask if I needed help with the bags. He didn't ask how I was. He just took the pots and left. I closed the door behind him and stood in the hallway. The grocery bags were still heavy in my hands. I felt something inside me tighten, but I didn't cry. Didn't cry about these things anymore. I just kept going. I put away the food I started cooking. I focused on the only thing that made me feel useful. The day finally arrived. Paula texted me that her plane had landed, that she would be at my house in an hour. I got ready as best I could. I put on a dress I hadn't worn in a long time. I put on a little makeup. I carefully did my hair. When I heard the taxi stop in front of my house, I rushed out to the door. I saw Paula getting out with 2 big suitcases. Her hair was shorter, some gray hairs that weren't there before, but her smile was the same as always. We hugged in the doorway. I felt something inside me loosen as if I could finally breathe. She came into the house and put the suitcases on the floor. She took my hands and looked me in the eyes. She told me I looked tired, that I'd lost weight, that she was worried about me. I told her I was fine, that it had just been a tough year, nothing serious, but she knew me too well. She knew when I was lying. She sat on the sofa and opened one of the suitcases. She started taking out things wrapped in tissue paper. Elegant boxes, bags with logos I recognized from magazines. She told me everything was for me, that she had thought of me in every store she visited, that she wanted to see me smile. I opened the first package. It was a Swiss watch. Silver, elegant, with a soft leather strap. Never in my life had I owned anything like it. The second package contained French perfumes, 3 carved glass bottles. They smelled of flowers and wood, of luxury, of things I never bought for myself. The third gift was an Italian leather handbag, caramel colored with perfect stitching, soft to the touch, heavy, real. I was speechless looking at everything. I didn't know what to say. I felt like I didn't deserve so much. Paula hugged me and told me I deserved everything. That I had worked all my life, that I had raised my son alone after his father left us, that I had sacrificed everything to give him an education and food, that now it was my turn to receive. It was my turn to be treated like what I was, a valuable woman, a woman who mattered. I cried. This time I really cried, but not out of sadness. I cried because someone saw me, someone remembered me, someone thought I was worthwhile. We spent the rest of the afternoon talking. We cooked together. We laughed. We remembered stories from our childhood. We felt like we used to, like when it was just the 2 of us against the world. That night, I ate dinner with more appetite than I had had in months. I tried on the watch. I put on a little perfume. I hugged the handbag as if it were a treasure. And at that moment, I still didn't know what was coming. I still didn't know that this happiness would last so little. That my own son would be capable of taking it away from me, that I would have to learn to defend myself from the only person who should protect me. But that night, I only felt gratitude. I only felt that finally someone was treating me with love, with respect, with the dignity I had forgotten I deserved. The next morning I woke up early. Paula was still sleeping in the guest room. The house was silent, but it was a different silence. It no longer felt empty. Now someone was there, someone I cared about, someone who cared about me. I made coffee and sat in the kitchen looking at the gifts I had left on the table. The watch shone in the morning light. The perfume bottles looked like jewels. The handbag rested on the chair as if it had always belonged there. I touched the smooth leather of the bag, and felt something strange, a mixture of joy and guilt, as if I didn't have the right to own such beautiful things, as if it were selfish to want something for myself. I had spent so many years giving everything, buying clothes for Theodore, paying for his studies, sacrificing my own needs so he could have what he wanted. And now that someone was giving something to me, I felt strange, almost uncomfortable. Paula appeared in the kitchen yawning. She poured herself some coffee and sat down across from me. She looked at me with those eyes that always knew what I was thinking. She asked me if I had slept well. I said yes, but she knew I was lying. She told me she noticed something about me, something muted, as if I had gotten used to not existing, to not mattering. I told her she was exaggerating, that it was just age, that was how things were when you got old. She shook her head. She told me age had nothing to do with it, that our mother had been 80 years old and was still strong, still had opinions, still took up space in the world. She asked me about Theodore. When was the last time he came to visit me? What did he do for me? I kept quiet. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to admit that my own son had forgotten me, that weeks went by without him coming, that when he came, it was only to ask for something or drop something off, never to stay with me. Paula waited. She didn't pressure me. She just waited for me to speak. Finally, I told her. I said Theodore was very busy with his job, with his wife, with his life, that I understood that I didn't want to be a burden. She put the coffee cup down on the table with more force than necessary. She told me I wasn't a burden, that I was his mother, that he had an obligation not only to visit me, but to make sure I was okay. I told her that things had changed since he married IA, that she kept him busy, that maybe I wasn't as important to her, and that was why he came less often. Paula looked at me sadly. She told me that was no excuse, that a real man knew how to take care of his mother no matter what his wife said. I changed the subject. I didn't want to ruin the morning talking about sad things. I asked her what she wanted to do that day, if she wanted to go to the market, if she wanted to cook something special. She accepted the change of subject. But I saw in her eyes that she hadn't finished thinking about this, that something was bothering her, that she was worried about me. We spent the day cooking together. We made chili like when we were girls. Paula remembered perfectly how Mom prepared it, how she folded the tortillas, how she knew when it was ready. While we cooked, we talked about everything. About Italy, about her job, about her neighbors, about how different it was to live there. But also about how much she missed her homeland, her family, me. She told me she had thought about asking me to move in with her, that she had space in her apartment, that we could spend our last years together. I felt something in my chest, a mixture of hope and fear. I told her I couldn't leave my house, my life, even if that life was lonely, even if no one visited me. It was the only thing I knew. She didn't insist. She just nodded. But I saw on her face that it hurt her to see me so alone, so resigned. In the afternoon, my phone rang. It was Theodore. He asked me if Paula had arrived yet. I told him yes, that she was with me, that we were cooking. There was a brief silence. Then he told me he would stop by to say hello the next day, that Ivana wanted to meet her, that they had been talking about her for a long time. I was happy. I thought maybe this visit would bring him closer to me, that maybe he would remember that he had family, that he had a mother. I hung up and told Paula. She smiled, but I noticed something strange in her expression, as if she wasn't completely happy with the news. I asked her what was wrong. She said nothing. That she just hoped Theodore would be kind, that he would treat her well, and above all, that he would treat me well in front of her. I told her not to worry, that Theodore was a good son. He was just busy. She didn't say anything else, but I saw in her eyes that she didn't believe me. That night, we ate the chili we had prepared. We sat at the dining table with candles lit. We toasted with sparkling cider. We laughed. We felt alive. Before bed, Paula asked me to try on the watch again, to put on some perfume, to carry the handbag around the house as if I were going out. I felt silly, but I did it. I put on the watch. I sprayed perfume on my wrists and neck. I took the bag and walked through the living room like a model. Paula applauded. She told me I looked beautiful, that I should always look that way, with dignity, with pride. I looked at myself in the hallway mirror. I almost didn't recognize myself. It had been so long since I had seen myself like that, put together, cared for, like I mattered. I took everything off before bed. I put the watch back in its box, the perfumes on my dresser, the handbag in my closet, as if they were too valuable to use, as if I didn't deserve to use them every day. Paula saw me put everything away and shook her head. She told me those things were meant to be used, to be enjoyed, not to be stored like they belonged in a museum. I promised her I would use them, but deep down, I knew I was afraid. Afraid of spoiling them. Afraid that something would happen to them. Afraid that someone would tell me it was ridiculous for a woman my age to have such elegant things. The next morning, I woke up nervous. Theodore was coming at noon. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted him to see that his aunt and I were fine, that we were happy. I cleaned the house again, even though it was already clean. I prepared enough food for an army. I set the table with the nice tablecloth, the one I only used on special occasions. Paula stopped me. She told me to stop running around, to sit down, to breathe, that my son didn't deserve so much effort if he never came to see me. But I couldn't help it. I needed everything to be perfect. I needed to show him that I was still good for something, that I could still be a good mother, a good hostess. At 2:00, I heard Theodore's car park in front of my house. My heart started beating faster. I felt that anxiety I always felt when he came, that need to please him, to make him feel comfortable, to make him stay a little longer. I opened the door before he could knock. He walked in with Ivana behind him. She was wearing a tight dress, high heels, her hair perfectly straightened, impeccable makeup. She greeted me with a kiss on the cheek, but it was cold, quick, like an errand. Theodore gave me a brief hug. He asked me where Paula was, as if I didn't matter, as if he had only come for her. Paula came out of the kitchen drying her hands. She hugged Theodore affectionately. She told him how much he had grown, that he looked a lot like his father, my late husband. Theodore smiled. It was the first time I had seen him smile like that in a long time, as if he remembered something good, something important. Then Paula greeted IA. She was polite, kind, but I noticed she was looking at her carefully, as if she was studying her. We sat in the living room. I served coffee. I offered sweet rolls. Ivana said she didn't eat carbs, that she was watching her figure. Paula didn't say anything, but I saw how she pressed her lips together. We talked about Italy, about what it was like to live there. Theodore asked about Paula's job, how much she earned, how much things cost there. Paula answered patiently, but I noticed that those questions bothered her, as if Theodore was only calculating, measuring, comparing. Even looked around the living room. Her eyes stopped at the dining table where I had left Paula's gifts, the watch, the perfumes, the handbag. She got up and walked over there. She picked up the handbag without asking permission. She examined it. She opened it. She ran her hand over the leather. She said out loud that it was beautiful, that she had always wanted a bag like that they cost about $1,000 in the stores here. My heart stopped. I felt something cold in my stomach. Paula got up too. She walked toward calmly without rushing. She gently but firmly took the bag out of her hands. She told her it was a gift for me, that she had bought it especially for her sister. I smiled, but it was a false smile. She said, of course, that she was just admiring it, that it was very nice. But I saw something in her eyes, something that scared me, an ambition, a desire, a determination. Paula put the bag back on the table, but this time she put it closer to me, as if protecting it. The rest of the visit was uncomfortable. Theodore spoke little. Ian looked at the gifts every now and then. I tried to keep the conversation going, but I felt a tension in the air that I couldn't ignore. When they finally left, Paula closed the door and leaned against it. She looked at me and shook her head. She told me that woman was dangerous, that she had seen how she looked at my gifts as if they were already hers, as if I didn't have the right to have them. I told her she was exaggerating, that Ivana had just been curious, nothing more. Paula took my hands. She looked me in the eyes. She told me to be careful, not to let anyone take away what was mine, that I deserved to have nice things, that I deserved to be respected. I nodded. But deep down, I didn't believe her. I didn't believe Ivana was capable of doing anything bad. I didn't believe my own son would allow me to be disrespected, but I was wrong. Very wrong, and I would soon find out in the worst possible way. The following days were peaceful. Paula and I fell into a pleasant routine. We ate breakfast together. We went for walks in the neighborhood. We cooked. We watched old movies on television. We talked late into the night. I felt alive again, as if I had woken up from a long gray dream, as if I finally remembered who I was before I became just someone's mother. Just the invisible woman living alone in that house. One afternoon, Paula insisted that we go out, that I put on the watch, that I carry the handbag, that I spray on perfume. She told me there was no point in having nice things if I didn't use them. I resisted at first. I was ashamed to go out like that. So dressed up, so elegant, as if I were showing off, as if I wanted to attract attention. But she wouldn't take no for an answer. She helped me choose a dress. She did my hair. She put on my makeup gently. She put the watch on my wrist. She gave me the bag. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked different. I looked important. I looked like someone who deserved respect. We went for a walk downtown. We went into a nice coffee shop. We ordered coffee and cake. We sat by the window watching people go by. Paula took a picture of me with her phone. She told me I looked radiant, that's how I should always look. I smiled, but inside I still felt that little voice telling me I didn't deserve this, that it was too much, that a woman my age shouldn't be out like that. When we got home, it was already evening. I left the handbag in my room. I carefully took off the watch. I put it away in its box as if it were a fragile treasure. Paula saw me inside. She didn't say anything, but I knew she was disappointed. Disappointed that I couldn't just enjoy it, just accept that I deserved good things. That night, Theodore called. He asked me if Paula and I wanted to come to his house for dinner on Sunday. He said Ivana would cook, that it would be nice to spend time as a family. I was excited. It had been over 6 months since he had invited me to his house. I thought maybe Paula's presence had made him reflect, that maybe he remembered that I existed, that I was his mother. I told Paula. She didn't seem so enthusiastic. She asked me if I was sure we wanted to go, if I wouldn't prefer that we spend that day alone. I told her I wanted to go, that I wanted Theodore to see that I was fine, that I had my sister with me, that I was happy. Paula accepted. But I saw on her face that she didn't trust him, that something worried her. Sunday arrived quickly. I got ready carefully. I put on a simple but nice dress. This time, I put on the watch. I took the handbag with the perfumes inside because I wanted to show them to Theodore. I wanted him to know that his aunt had given me beautiful things, that someone was thinking of me. Paula also got dressed up. She brought a bottle of Italian wine that she had brought in her luggage, an expensive wine from a region she knew well. We arrived at Theodore's house at 6 o'clock in the evening. It was a nice house, 2 stories with a yard with plenty of space. Enough space for me to live there if they ever asked me to. But they had never asked me. I opened the door. She was wearing an apron. She smiled, but again, it was that smile that didn't reach her eyes. She let us in. The house smelled good, of home cooking, of spices. I was surprised. I didn't know Ivana cooked. Theodore was in the living room watching football. He got up to greet us. He hugged us quickly. He told us to sit down. That dinner would be ready soon. I sat on the sofa. I left my handbag next to me. Paula gave the wine to Ivana. She took it and read the label. Her eyes lit up. She said it was an excellent wine, that it cost about $150 a bottle. Paula nodded. She said it was a gift, that they should enjoy it. I took it to the kitchen. I expected her to open it for dinner, but she didn't. She put it away in her cabinet as if it were just for her and Theodore, as if Paula and I weren't there. Paula looked at me. I just looked down. I didn't want to cause trouble. I didn't want to ruin the night. Dinner was fine. Ian had made chicken and sauce, rice, salad, nothing special, but it was tasty. We ate in silence most of the time. Theodore asked when Paula would be leaving. She said in 1 week that she had to go back to her job, to her life in Italy. He nodded. He asked if she would come back soon. Paula said she didn't know that it depended on many things, but that she would always check in on me, that she would always call me. She looked at Theodore when she said that, as if waiting for him to say something, to say that he too would check in on me, that he wouldn't leave me alone. But Theodore just kept eating, as if he didn't understand the message or as if he didn't care. After dinner, we moved to the living room. Ia served coffee. I took one of the perfumes out of my handbag. I wanted to show it to Theodore. I wanted him to see how nice it was. I handed it to him to smell. He took it, he looked at it, he said it smelled good. Nothing else. He left it on the coffee table and went back to watching football on television. Ivana approached. She picked up the bottle. She examined it carefully. She read the label. Her eyes widened a little. She said it was French perfume from an expensive brand, that it cost about $200 a bottle. I nodded. I told her Paula had brought me 3, that they were beautiful, that they made me feel special. Even didn't say anything else, but she kept staring at the bottle for a long time. Too long. Paula got up. She said it was late, that we should go, that I got tired easily. Theodore didn't even get up to say goodbye to us. He just raised his hand from the sofa. He told us to drive safely. I walked us to the door. She hugged me. She thanked me for coming. But her hug was cold, empty. When we got into the taxi, Paula was quiet. Very quiet. I asked her what was wrong. She said nothing, that she was just tired. But I knew she was lying. I knew she had seen the same thing I had. The way I looked at my things, the way Theodore ignored me, the way neither of them treated me as if I mattered. We arrived home and went to bed. But that night, I couldn't rest. I kept thinking about dinner, how uncomfortable everything had been, how little my son seemed interested in me, and how Ivana's eyes had been fixed on my gifts, as if she was already planning something, as if she already wanted them for herself. The following days passed quickly, too quickly. Paula and I knew she would have to leave soon, and that made us sad. We tried to enjoy every moment, every breakfast, every conversation, every laugh. Theodore didn't call again after that dinner. I didn't reach out to him either. I had already gotten used to his silence, to his distance, to his indifference. But one afternoon, my phone rang. It was him. He asked me if he could stop by to pick up some tools he had left in my garage months ago. I told him yes whenever he wanted. He arrived half an hour later. He went straight into the garage without even greeting me properly. Paula was in the kitchen making lemonade. I stayed in the living room waiting for Theodore to finish. When he came out of the garage, he had the tools in his hand. He stopped at the entrance to the living room. His eyes looked at the table where I had left my gifts again. The watch, the perfumes, the handbag. He approached. He picked up the watch. He looked at it closely. He asked me how much it had cost. I told him I didn't know, that it was a gift from Paula, that I hadn't asked the price. He kept looking at it. He said it probably cost about $1,500, that it was a very good brand, Swiss luxury. He put the watch back on the table. He picked up one of the perfumes. He did the same thing. He estimated that each bottle cost around $200. I didn't understand why the price mattered so much to him, why he couldn't just be happy that I had nice things, that someone had given them to me with love. Paula came out of the kitchen. She noticed the tension. She stood in the doorway watching. Theodore put the perfume on the table. He looked at me and told me to be careful, that those things were very valuable, that I should keep them in a safe place, that it would be a shame if they got ruined. I nodded. I told him I would take care of them, that they were very important to me. He left without saying anything else, without asking me how I was, without asking Paula about her trip back. He just took his tools and left. Paula sat down next to me. She told me she didn't like how Theodore had looked at my things, as if he was doing sums, as if he was thinking about something. I told her she was exaggerating, that Theodore was just curious, nothing more. But deep down, I had also felt something strange, Something uncomfortable in the way he had examined each gift, in the way he had calculated each price. That night, Paula received a call from her job. They had an emergency. They needed her to return sooner, in 2 days, not in 1 week, as we had planned. I felt devastated. I didn't want her to leave yet. I didn't want to be alone again. But I understood. She had her life, her responsibilities. We spent those last 2 days together without separating. We cooked, we talked, we cried a little. We promised each other that we would call more often, that we wouldn't let so much time pass without seeing each other. The morning Paula left, I got up very early. I made her favorite breakfast. I wanted her to take a good memory with her. I wanted her to know how much it meant to me that she had come. While we were eating breakfast, my phone rang. It was Theodore again. He asked if Paula had left yet. I told him she was leaving that afternoon, that her flight was at 6 o'clock. There was a silence. Then he asked if he could stop by to say goodbye. I was happy. I thought maybe his aunt did matter to him, that maybe he did have some heart. I told him yes, that he could come whenever he wanted, that we would be home all day. I hung up and told Paula. She didn't seem excited. She just nodded as if she already expected something like this to happen. Theodore arrived at noon. This time, he came with IA. They walked in together. He had a small gift bag in his hand. I was surprised. I didn't expect them to bring anything. They sat in the living room. Theodore gave the bag to Paula. She opened it. There were chocolates, a card, simple thing, but the gesture was nice. Paula thanked them. She hugged them. She told them it had been a pleasure to see them, that she hoped they would take care of me, that they wouldn't leave me alone for so long. Theodore nodded. He said yes, that he would come more often, but I knew he wouldn't. I had heard that promise before. Ivana got up. She walked toward the table where my gifts were again, as if they were attracting her, as if she couldn't help it. She picked up the handbag. She opened it. She checked inside. She said it was beautiful, that she had one similar but not as good, that this one was better quality. Paula watched her carefully, attentively. Aya put the bag down. She picked up one of the perfumes. She uncapped it. She sprayed a little on her wrist. She smelled it. She smiled. She said it smelled incredible, that it was perfect for her. I felt something cold in my stomach. I didn't like how she said that, as if it were already hers, as if I wasn't there. Paula got up. She walked toward calmly. She took the perfume out of her hand. She kept it. She put it on the table away from her. She told her in a soft but firm voice that all of that was for me, that she had bought it for her sister, that it wasn't for anyone else. I laughed. She said, of course, that she was just trying it, that it was no problem. But her laugh sounded false, forced, and her eyes showed something else. They showed annoyance, resentment. Theodore got up. He said it was late, that they had to go, that they had things to do. They said goodbye quickly. I gave me a kiss on the cheek, but it was even colder than the other times. When they left, Paula closed the door inside. She looked at me worriedly. She told me to be very careful, that that woman wanted my things, that she would do whatever she could to keep them. I told her she couldn't, that they were mine, that Theodore would never allow something like that. Paula shook her head. She told me Theodore wouldn't defend me, that she had already seen it, that he was completely controlled by his wife, that he did what she asked him to do. She told me to put my things away safely, to put them in a place where no one else could see them, where no one could touch them. But I didn't listen to her. I thought she was being paranoid, that Ivana wouldn't do anything bad, that Theodore would never betray me that way. I was very wrong. That afternoon, I took Paula to the airport. We hugged for a long time. She made me promise that I would call her if anything happened, if I needed help, if someone disrespected me. I promised her I would. But deep down, I thought it wouldn't be necessary, that everything would be fine. I watched her go through security. I stayed there until she disappeared into the crowd. I felt a huge emptiness in my chest, as if something had been ripped out of me. I went home alone. The house was silent again, empty again, like before Paula arrived. I sat in the living room. I looked at my gifts on the table. The watch shone. The perfumes looked elegant. The handbag rested there as a reminder that someone loved me, that someone thought of me. But for the first time, I felt fear. Fear of losing them. Fear that someone would take them from me. Fear that Paula was right. I picked up the handbag. I took it to my room. I put it away in the closet, hidden, protected. I did the same with the perfumes. And with the watch, I put them all away as if they were secrets, as if I didn't have the right to have them out in the open. And then I realized something terrible. I realized that I no longer felt safe even in my own house, that I no longer trusted my own son, and I was right not to trust him because the worst was still to come. The first days without Paula were difficult. The house felt too big again, too silent, too empty. I would wake up in the mornings and for a second forget that she was gone. I expected to hear her voice from the kitchen, but there was only silence. Theodore didn't call, not once. Not even to ask if I'd gotten back from the airport. Okay, or to ask how I was. Nothing. I didn't reach out to him either. Something inside me had changed. Paula's words kept echoing in my head. Her warning, her concern, and even though I tried to ignore them, I couldn't. I had put all my gifts away in my bedroom closet. I took them out occasionally just to look at them, to remember that someone had thought of me. But I no longer left them out in the open. I no longer felt safe doing it. One afternoon the following week, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked out the window and saw Theodore's car parked in front of my house. I felt a mixture of joy and nervousness. I opened the door. He was there with IA. Both were smiling. They told me they were just stopping by to say hello, that they wanted to see how I was doing now that Paula was gone. I let them in. I offered them coffee. They sat in the living room. Ivana looked around as if searching for something. Her eyes stopped at the dining table, the table where my gifts had been before. She asked where the things Paula had brought me were. She said she wanted to see them again, that they were so beautiful. I told her I had put them away, that I didn't want them to get ruined, that they were very valuable to me. She insisted. She said she just wanted to see them for a moment, that she loved that handbag, that she couldn't stop thinking about it. Something in her tone made me uncomfortable. But I didn't want to be rude. I didn't want to cause problems. So I went to my room and took the handbag out of the closet. When I returned to the living room, I gave it to her. She took it with both hands. She opened it. She checked inside. She ran her fingers over the leather. She held it against her body as if it were hers. She said it suited her perfectly, that it was exactly her style, that she would know how to use it better than I would. My hands started to sweat. I told her it was a gift from my sister, that it meant a lot to me, that it wasn't something I used every day, but that I took care of it lovingly. Ivana looked at me. She smiled, but it was a strange smile. She told me she understood, that she was just admiring it, that it was obvious that a bag like that was too elegant to stay hidden in a closet. Theodore didn't say anything. He was sitting there looking at his phone as if the conversation didn't matter to him, as if nothing strange was happening. Ivana finally handed me the bag back, but she did it slowly, as if it pained her to let go of it, as if she wanted to keep it. They stayed a little longer. We talked about unimportant things, the weather, traffic, nothing real. And then Ivana said something that chilled my blood. She said it would be nice if I gave her something as a gift, that after all, we were family. That sharing was nice, that Paula had surely brought enough things for me to be able to give something away. I was silent. I didn't know what to say. I felt like they were putting me in a corner, that they were pressuring me. Theodore looked up from his phone. He looked at me. He said Ivana was right, that I had received a lot of gifts, that it wouldn't hurt to share a little, that I didn't use those things anyway. I felt something shatter inside me. My own son, my own flesh and blood. He was asking me to give away the only nice things I had, the only things that made me feel valuable. I told them no, that those gifts were mine, that Paula had bought them for me, that I wouldn't give them away. The atmosphere changed. I stopped smiling. Theodore frowned as if I had said something wrong, as if I were selfish for wanting to keep what was mine. IA got up. She said she understood that it was no problem, but her voice sounded cold, resentful. Theodore got up, too. He told me it didn't have to be like this, that his wife was just being nice, that I was being difficult. I stayed seated, unable to believe what I was hearing. My son was calling me difficult for not giving away my things, for not giving in to his wife's whims. They left without saying a proper goodbye. The door closed with more force than necessary. I was left alone in the living room with the handbag still in my hands. I cried. I cried for the first time in a long time. Not out of sadness, out of anger, out of helplessness, out of pain. I realized at that moment that Paula was right, that Ivana wanted my things, and that Theodore would support her, that he would choose to please her before respecting me. I put the handbag away again. This time, I put it in a more hidden place, behind my old sheets where no one would think to look for it. I did the same with the perfumes and the watch. I hid them all as if they were treasures in danger because that's what they were, and they were in danger. That night, I called Paula. I told her what had happened. She got angry. She told me not to open the door to them again, not to let them into my house to protect what was mine. She told me that if they tried anything else to call her immediately, that she would come back if necessary, that she wouldn't leave me alone with this. We hung up and I went to sleep. But I couldn't rest. I kept thinking about Ivana's face when she held my handbag, how she looked at it, how she wanted it, and how Theodore had looked at me with coldness, with disappointment, as if I were the problem, as if I were the selfish one. 3 days passed. Theodore didn't call. I didn't either. The silence between us was different now. It was no longer just distance, it was a break. And then one afternoon I saw his car park in front of my house again. But this time, he was alone without IA. I felt a little relief. I thought maybe he had come to apologize, that maybe he had reflected, that maybe he remembered that I was his mother. I opened the door. He walked in, but he didn't greet me with a hug. He didn't ask me how I was. He just walked straight into the living room. He sat down. He looked at me. And then he said something I will never forget. He told me Ivana was very upset, that she felt rejected, that I had made her feel bad, that she only wanted to borrow the handbag just for a party. Nothing more. I told him no, that handbag was mine, that I wouldn't lend it. He insisted. He told me I was being ridiculous, that I never went anywhere, that I never used those things, that it was a waste to have them stored away. I felt something break inside me. My son was telling me I didn't deserve to have nice things because I didn't use them, as if my worth depended on how useful I was to others. I told him no again with more firmness. I told him to leave, that I didn't want to talk about this anymore. He got up. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, a mixture of anger and scorn. He told me I would regret it, that Ivana didn't forget these things, that I was ruining the relationship with them over a stupid handbag. And he left, leaving me there, trembling, scared, wondering how I had gotten to this point, how my own son had become a stranger. Someone who made me feel guilty for protecting the little I had. I didn't sleep at all that night. I knew something bad was going to happen. I could feel it. And I was right. The following days were strange. Theodore didn't call again. I didn't reach out to him either. There was a wall between us now, a wall that I hadn't built, but that was there. Solid, real, painful. I spent my time alone at home. I rarely went out, almost never. I was afraid of leaving my things unattended, afraid that someone would come in, afraid that they would take them from me. I realized how ridiculous that sounded, but I couldn't help it. The way Ivana had looked at my gifts, the way Theodore had pressured me, all of that had left me scared. Paula called me every day. She asked me how I was, if Theodore had been back, if anything had happened. I told her no, that everything was quiet. But we both knew it was the calm before the storm. One morning, I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard a noise outside. I looked out the window and saw Theodore's car parking. It was barely 9 o'clock in the morning. He never came that early. He got out of the car. He was alone again. He knocked on the door. I hesitated. I didn't want to open it for him. I didn't want another argument, But he was my son. I couldn't leave him outside. I opened the door. He walked in without waiting for an invitation. He had a serious expression. Tense. He told me we needed to talk, that this couldn't continue, that we had to resolve the problem. I asked him what problem. He looked at me as if I was stupid. He told me the problem was my attitude, that I was being selfish, that Ivana had only asked for a favor and I had turned it into a drama. I felt the anger rise in my throat. I told him there was no drama, that I had just said no, that I had the right to say no, that my things were mine. He raised his voice. He told me I didn't understand, that Ivana was his wife, that she was important to him, that I should make an effort to get along with her. I told him I had always been kind to her, that I had never disrespected her, that the only thing I wouldn't do was give her or lend her my things. Theodore walked toward the dining room. He looked at the empty table. He asked me where the gifts were. I told him, put away in a safe place. He stared at me. He asked me where exactly. I told him that didn't concern him, that they were my things, and I decided where to keep them. His expression changed. It became harder, colder. He told me I was being paranoid, that no one was going to steal anything from me, that I was exaggerating. But I knew I wasn't exaggerating. I saw it in his eyes. I saw that he had come with a plan, that Ivana had sent him, that he wouldn't leave without getting what he wanted. I asked him to leave, that we had talked enough, that there was nothing more to say. He didn't move. He stood in the middle of the living room, looking at me as if he was calculating, thinking. Then he took out his phone. He dialed. He put it on speaker. It was Ivana. She started talking. She told me she didn't understand why I was being so difficult, that she only wanted to use the handbag once for a wedding, that she would return it afterward. I told her no, that I had already said no, that I wouldn't change my mind. She changed her tone. She became sweeter, more manipulative. She told me I didn't need it, that I never went out, that I was wasting it, that a woman my age had nowhere to use those things. I felt like I'd been slapped. A woman my age, as if because I was 69 years old, I no longer deserved to have nice things, as if my life was no longer worth anything. I told her to hang up, that I didn't want to keep listening to her. Theodore ended the call. He looked at me with disappointment. He told me I was forcing him to choose, that I was putting material things above family, that I was being a bad mother. Those words hurt me more than anything else. A bad mother. Me who had sacrificed everything for him. Me who had worked double shifts to give him an education. Me who never bought anything for myself so he wouldn't lack anything. And now he was calling me a bad mother for not giving away the only thing someone had given me with love. I told him to leave, that I didn't want to see him anymore, that he shouldn't come back until he could respect me. He laughed. It was a bitter laugh, dry. He told me fine, if that's what I wanted, that's how it would be, that he wouldn't bother me anymore. He walked toward the door, but before leaving, he stopped. He turned around. He looked at me with something that scared me, something dark, something I had never seen in him. He told me I had brought it on myself, that I shouldn't say later that he didn't warn me. And he left. The door closed. I was left alone, trembling with my heart beating too fast. I called Paula. I told her everything. She got scared. She told me to be very careful, to change the locks, not to open the door to them again. I told her I didn't believe Theodore was capable of doing anything bad. She told me I didn't know people when they became obsessed with something. That money and ambition changed people. I spent the rest of the day nervous. I jumped at any noise. I checked the windows every 5 minutes. I checked 3 times that all the doors were locked. When night came, I felt exhausted. I hadn't eaten anything all day. I forced myself to eat a little bread. I drank tea to calm down. I went to bed early, but I couldn't rest. I kept hearing noises, shadows moving. My mind was playing tricks on me. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up. I went to check the closet where I'd kept my gifts. They were still there, all of them, intact. I felt silly for being so paranoid. I went back to bed. I tried to sleep. The next day I woke up late. My head ached. My body was heavy as if I had run a marathon. I made coffee. I sat in the kitchen. I looked out the window. Everything seemed normal, quiet. Then my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated, but I answered. It was Ivana. She asked me if we could talk like adults without Theodore involved. I told her we had nothing to talk about. She insisted. She told me she just wanted to explain her point of view. That maybe I had misunderstood her. I told her there was nothing to misunderstand, that my things were mine. Period. She sighed. She told me I was being stubborn, that I was ruining the relationship with my son over nonsense, that one day I would regret it. I hung up. I didn't want to keep listening to her. I didn't want her to manipulate me. But her words kept swirling in my head. I was ruining my relationship with Theodore, but not because I was defending my things, but because he had chosen an ambitious woman over his own mother. That afternoon, I decided to go out. I needed fresh air. I needed to clear my mind. I locked the house securely. I checked twice that everything was locked. I walked through the park. I sat on a bench. I watched families playing, children running, mothers smiling, and I wondered when my life had turned into this. When I had stopped being a beloved mother to become an obstacle, someone to manipulate, someone to steal from. I returned home 2 hours later. I opened the door. Everything seemed normal. I walked in. I locked the door behind me. I went to my room. I opened the closet. I looked behind the sheets. My heart stopped. The handbag was gone. I checked again. I moved all the sheets. I searched every corner of the closet. The perfumes were gone too, not the watch. Everything had disappeared. Someone had entered my house. Someone had searched my things. Someone had robbed me, and I knew exactly who it had been. I stood in front of the empty closet, unable to breathe. My hands were trembling. My head was spinning. I felt the floor moving beneath my feet. I checked again and again as if my eyes were lying to me, as if the gifts would magically appear. But they weren't there. Nothing was there. I sat on the edge of the bed. I tried to think. I tried to understand how this had happened. I had locked the house securely. I had checked the doors, the windows. Everything was locked when I left. And then I knew Theodore had a key to my house. I had given it to him years ago for emergencies, for when I needed help. I never thought he would use it like this. I never thought he would use it to rob me. I felt nauseous. I ran to the bathroom. I knelt in front of the toilet, but nothing came out. Only dry heaves. Only the weight of the betrayal crushing me. I washed my face with cold water. I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw an old woman, tired, defeated. A woman who had just been robbed by her own son. I left the bathroom. I picked up my phone. I dialed Theodore's number. It rang 5 times. He didn't answer. I dialed again. Again, he didn't answer. I called IA. She didn't answer either. I sent them messages. I told them I knew what they had done to return my things, that it was theft, that they were the worst. The messages were marked as read, but there was no reply. I sat on the sofa. Tears started to fall. I couldn't stop them. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. I cried for the betrayal, for the loss, for the humiliation of having been treated like this by my own son. I called Paula. She answered on the second ring. She heard my broken voice and knew immediately that something bad had happened. I told her everything, that I had been out for 2 hours, that when I came back, everything had disappeared, that Theodore had a key, that I knew it had been him. Paula screamed. I had never heard her so angry. She told me to call the police, to report the theft, not to let them get away with it. I told her I couldn't, that he was my son, that I couldn't get him into trouble with the law, that I couldn't do that to him. She told me he had no problem doing this to me, that I had to defend myself, that I had to get back what was mine. But I didn't know if I could. I didn't know if I had the strength. I felt so tired, so old, so useless. Paula told me to wait, not to do anything, that she would take the next flight, that she would be there in 2 days, that we would sort this out together. We hung up. I stayed sitting on the sofa until it got dark. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't eat. I didn't do anything. I just stayed there in the darkness, thinking about how my life had come to this point. I didn't sleep that night. Every noise startled me. I was afraid they would come back, that they would want more, that they would do something worse to me. The next morning, The doorbell rang. I looked out the window. It was Theodore alone without IA. I didn't want to open it for him, but I needed to see his face. I needed to hear him admit what he had done. I opened the door. He walked in as if nothing had happened, as if it were a normal day, as if he hadn't robbed me the day before. He sat on the sofa. He looked at me. He asked me why I had been bothering him with messages. Why was I being so dramatic? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I yelled at him. I told him I knew what he had done, that he had entered my house, that he had taken my things, that he had robbed me. He shook his head. He told me I was crazy, that he hadn't done any of that he didn't know what I was talking about. But I saw something in his eyes, a spark of guilt, of nervousness. I knew he was lying. I told him he had a key to my house, that no one else could have come in, that I knew it had been him. He stood up. He told me I was paranoid, that I had probably lost the things and was now making up stories, that a woman my age sometimes forgets where she puts things again, using my age against me as if I were senile, as if I were stupid. I told him to return my things or I would call the police. He laughed. He told me to go ahead and do it, that I had no proof, that no one would believe me. And he was right. I had no proof, just my word against his. And he was a respectable man with a stable job. I was just a lonely old woman who might be confused. He left. He left me there. More broken than before, more alone than ever. I spent the rest of the day thinking about what to do. Should I go to his house, confront Ivana, look for my things? But I was afraid of what they might do to me, afraid that they would call the police and accuse me of something. Paula called me that night. She told me her flight was leaving the next day, that she would arrive in the afternoon, that I should hold on, that we would be together soon. I told her Theodore had come, that he had denied everything, that he had made me feel like I was crazy. Paula told me I wasn't crazy, that she would fix everything, that he wouldn't come out of this well, that he would pay for what he had done. The next day, I cleaned the house. I don't know why. I guess I needed to do something. Keep my hands busy, not think about the emptiness I felt. At 3:00 in the afternoon, Paula arrived. She only had a small backpack. She had come in a hurry just for me. She hugged me at the door, and I cried again. I cried in her arms like a child. I cried out all the pain, all the shame, all the betrayal. She let me cry. She didn't say anything. She just held me. When I finally calmed down, we went into the house. She sat in the living room. She looked at me with determination. She told me that now we would sort this out, that we would go to Theodore's house, that we would get back what was mine. I told her I was scared, that I didn't know if I could face them. She took my hands. She told me I wasn't alone, that she would be with me, that together we were stronger. We waited until 6:00 in the evening. Paula said it was better to go when they were both home, that there would be no way for them to deny things if we saw the items there. We got into the car Paula had rented. She drove to Theodore's house. My heart was beating so hard I thought it would jump out of my chest. We arrived. Paula parked the car in front of the house. We saw Theodore's car and Ivana's. They were both there. Paula got out of the car. I stayed seated. I was afraid. She opened my door. She held out her hand to me. She told me it was time, that it was time to defend myself, to reclaim my dignity. I took her hand. I got out of the car. We walked to the door together. Paula rang the doorbell. We waited. Ivana opened it. Her face changed when she saw us. She tried to close the door, but Paula stopped her. She told her we needed to talk, that we wouldn't leave until we got back what they had stolen from us. Even said she didn't know what we were talking about, that we should leave or she would call the police. Paula smiled, but it was a cold smile. She told her that was perfect, to call the police, that we would gladly explain to them how they had broken into an elderly woman's house and stolen gifts worth more than $2,000. Even turned pale. Theodore appeared behind her. He saw us, and his expression hardened. Paula looked him straight in the eyes. And then she said something that changed everything. She said she knew exactly where my things were, that she had tracked them, that the handbag had a GPS tracker sewn into the lining, that she always put trackers in the valuable things she gave as gifts in case they were lost or stolen. She was lying, but they didn't know that. And it worked. Theodore and Aya looked at each other. I saw the panic in their eyes, the way they swallowed, the way their bodies tensed up. Paula took out her phone. She showed them a screen. I don't know what it was exactly. Maybe an application, maybe nothing, but they didn't come closer to check. They only looked from afar. Paula said the signal was coming from inside this house, specifically from the second floor, from the front-facing room. Ivana took a step back. Theodore clenched his fists, but neither of them said anything. Paula kept talking with a calm voice, firm, without yelling. She said they had two options: return everything right now, and this would stay between family, or she would call the police and file charges for aggravated theft. Unauthorized entry? Theft from an elderly person. She said she knew lawyers in this country, good lawyers, that with the GPS evidence and the testimony of the two of us, Theodore could go to jail, lose his job, his reputation, everything. The silence that followed was heavy, long, unbearable. Finally, Evan spoke. She said it was all a misunderstanding, that she had only borrowed the things, that she was going to return them later, that it wasn't theft if she planned to return them. Paula laughed, but it wasn't a cheerful laugh. It was a harsh laugh. Cold. She told her that entering someone else's house without permission was trespassing, that taking things without authorization was theft, that it didn't matter if she planned to return them or not. Theodore finally spoke. He looked at me. He told me I was exaggerating, that we were family, that I couldn't do this to them, that he was my son. Something inside me broke. I told him he had stopped being my son when he entered my house like a thief. When he stole the only nice things I had, when he chose his ambitious wife over respect for his mother. I told him I had given him everything. All my life, all my effort, all my love. And he repaid me by robbing me, by making me feel crazy, by telling me I was paranoid. My voice broke, but I kept talking. I told him I had never asked him for anything, only respect. Only that he let me have something for myself, and he couldn't even give me that. Theodore looked down. For the first time, I saw him ashamed, but he didn't say anything. He didn't apologize. He didn't ask for forgiveness. Paula gave him an ultimatum. They had 5 minutes to come down with everything, or she would dial the emergency number. She took out her phone. She started counting. I looked at Theodore. She said something to him in a low voice. He shook his head. She insisted. They argued in whispers, but we could hear part of the conversation. Ivana was saying they couldn't risk it, that if they called the police, everything would get worse. Theodore was saying they were his things now, that he wouldn't return them. Paula reached 3 minutes. She raised the phone. She dialed 9, then 1. Her finger hovered over the final one. Ivana screamed for her to wait, that they would go up for the things, that they would return them. She ran up the stairs. Theodore followed her. Paula and I stayed in the doorway. My heart was pounding so hard my chest hurt. We heard noises upstairs, drawers opening, quick footsteps, arguing voices. Then they came down. Ivana had the handbag in her hand. Theodore had a plastic bag with the perfumes and the watch inside. Ivana threw the bag at me. It fell to the floor in front of me as if it were trash, as if it were worthless. Theodore put the bag in my hands forcefully, with anger. He looked at me with hatred, with pure resentment. He told me I should be happy that I had gotten back my precious things, that he hoped they were worth it, because I had lost my son over them. Paula stepped forward. She stood between us. She told Theodore not to speak to me like that he had lost his mother the day he decided to rob her, that he had made that decision, not me. She told him that a real man protected his mother, cared for her, respected her, that he wasn't a man. He was a thief, a coward, an unworthy son. Theodore clenched his jaw, his eyes filled with tears. But I don't know if they were tears of regret or rage. He even took his arm. She pulled him inside. She shouted for us to leave, not to ever come back, that we weren't welcome in their house. Paula took my arm. She picked up the handbag from the floor. She helped me walk toward the car. My legs barely held me up. When we got to the car, I looked back. Theodore was at the door watching us. His expression was unreadable, a mixture of shame, rage, pain. For a second, I thought he would come, that he would ask for my forgiveness, that he would say it had all been a terrible mistake. But he didn't. He just stood there, watching us leave, watching what was left of our relationship break forever. Paula drove in silence. I looked out the window without seeing anything. I had my things back. The handbag, the perfumes, the watch. Everything was there in my hands, intact. But I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel victory. I only felt emptiness, a huge emptiness that no gift could fill. We had won. We had recovered what was mine, but I had lost my son, and I didn't know if I could ever get him back. We arrived home. Paula helped me inside. She sat me on the sofa. She checked every gift. She showed me that everything was fine, that nothing was damaged. I nodded, but I didn't care. I didn't care anymore. Paula sat next to me. She hugged me. She told me I had done the right thing, that I had defended my dignity, that I should feel proud. I told her I didn't feel proud. I just felt tired, sad, broken. She told me it was normal, that what had happened was terrible, that no mother should have to go through that, but that with time I would heal, that I was stronger than I thought. That night, Paula stayed with me. She didn't leave me alone. She made tea. She heated soup. She forced me to eat even though I wasn't hungry. She helped me change the locks on the house. She called a locksmith who came that night. Now Theodore couldn't get in. Never again. I got into bed early. Paula lay down next to me. Like when we were little girls, like when we were afraid and slept together to feel safe. I asked her if I had done wrong, if I should have given the handbag to Ivana from the beginning, if all of this could have been avoided. Paula squeezed my hand. She told me no, that I hadn't done anything wrong, that defending what was mine wasn't selfishness, that having boundaries wasn't being a bad mother. She told me Theodore had chosen his path, that he had decided to steal, to lie, to betray. That those decisions were his, not mine. She told me I deserved respect, deserved to be treated with dignity, deserved to have nice things. Without anyone taking them from me, I closed my eyes. The tears kept falling. But for the first time in days, they weren't just tears of pain. They were also tears of relief, of gratitude, of knowing I wasn't alone, that someone had defended me, someone had fought for me, someone had reminded me that I was worthwhile. I fell asleep with Paula's hand in mine, feeling that maybe, just maybe, someday this would hurt less. Someday I could look at my gifts and only see love, not betrayal. Someday I would feel whole again. But that day was still far away, very far away. And in the meantime, I could only wait and heal and learn to live with this new pain, with this new reality, with this son I had lost forever. The following days were strange. Paula stayed with me for a whole extra week. She canceled meetings. She postponed commitments. She told me I was more important than any job. We spent the days in silence most of the time. She cooked. I kept her company. We went for walks in the afternoons. Little by little, I started to feel a little better. Not well, but better. Theodore didn't call. He didn't send messages. Nothing. It was as if he had died or as if I had died to him. Sometimes I wondered if he regretted it, if he thought about me, if he understood the damage he had done to me. But I would never have those answers. And maybe that was better. One afternoon, Paula took the handbag out of the closet where I had put it away again. She gave it to me. She told me I had to use it, that I couldn't keep hiding it as if it was something forbidden. I told her I couldn't, that every time I saw it, I remembered everything. The theft, the betrayal, Theodore's face full of hatred. Paula sat across from me. She took my hands. She told me she understood, but that I couldn't let them win. That if I kept hiding my things, they would have achieved their goal. They would have succeeded in making me feel like I deserved nothing. She told me I had to reclaim the original meaning of those gifts, that they were symbols of love. that I mattered, that someone was thinking of me, and that I couldn't let Theodore and Ivana tarnish that. She was right. I knew it. But it was difficult. So difficult. That afternoon, she made me get dressed up. I put on a nice dress. She did my hair. She put on light makeup. She put the watch on my wrist. She sprayed on perfume. She gave me the handbag. We went for a walk downtown. We went into a store, to a coffee shop. Paula took pictures of me. She made me smile. She reminded me who I was. A dignified woman, a valuable woman, a woman who deserved to take up space in the world. When we returned home, I felt different. Not completely healed, but stronger, as if something inside me had woken up, something that had been sleeping for a long time. Paula had to leave 3 days later. This time, the goodbye was different. It still hurt, but I no longer felt so lost, so alone, so broken. So she hugged me at the airport. She made me promise that I would use my gifts, that I wouldn't hide them, that I would go out, that I would live, that I wouldn't let fear lock me in. I promised her I would try. And this time, I meant it. The weeks passed. I learned to live with Theodore's silence, with his absence, with the fact that maybe I would never have a relationship with him again. It hurt. It hurt so much. There were nights when I cried myself to sleep. There were days when I wondered where I had failed as a mother, what I had done wrong for my son to treat me like this. But Paula called me every day. She reminded me that I hadn't done anything wrong, that some people simply made the wrong choices, that Theodore had chosen ambition and greed over love and respect. I started going out more, using my things, the watch on my wrist, the perfume on my skin, the handbag on my arm. At first, I felt uncomfortable, as if everyone was looking at me, as if everyone knew what had happened. But no one knew, and no one looked at me strangely. In fact, some women complimented me. They told me I looked elegant, that the handbag was beautiful, that I smelled very good. And little by little, I started to believe it. I started to believe that I deserved to have nice things, that my age didn't make me less valuable, that my loneliness didn't make me invisible. One day, I was at the supermarket buying vegetables. I was wearing the watch and the handbag. An older woman approached me. She told me I looked radiant. She asked me what my secret was. I smiled at her. I told her there was no secret. I had just learned to value myself, to defend myself, to not let anyone make me feel less than what I was. She nodded. She told me she wished she had learned that at my age, that she had spent her whole life pleasing others, putting herself last, forgetting herself. I told her it was never too late, that we could always start respecting ourselves, to demand respect, to take the place we deserved. When I got home that day, I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a different woman. Not the broken woman from 1 month ago, not the invisible woman from 1 year ago. I saw a woman who had fought, who had lost something important, but who had gained something more valuable, her dignity. 2 months later, I received a call from an unknown number. I hesitated, but I answered. It was Theodore. His voice sounded different, more sober, more broken. He asked me if we could talk, if he could come to see me. My first instinct was to say no, that I didn't want to see him, that he had done enough damage. But something in his voice stopped me. I told him yes, that he could come, but that we would only talk in my living room, that I wouldn't open my life to him again so easily. He arrived that afternoon. He was alone without IA. When I opened the door, he looked different, thinner, more tired, older. He walked in slowly, as if he was afraid, as if he wasn't sure he was welcome. And he wasn't. Not completely. He sat on the sofa. I sat in the armchair across from him, leaving space between us, making the distance that now existed clear. He asked for my forgiveness. He told me he had been an idiot, that Ivana had manipulated him, that he had been weak, that he had no excuse, but that he regretted it deeply. I listened without interrupting. When he finished, I remained silent for a moment, processing his words, deciding what to say. Finally, I spoke. I told him I appreciated his apology, but that words didn't erase what he had done. that they didn't heal the pain he had caused me, that they didn't recover the trust he had destroyed. I told him he had entered my house like a thief, that he had robbed me, that he had lied to me, that he had made me feel crazy, that he had chosen material objects over his own mother. I told him that wasn't easily forgotten, that maybe someday I could forgive him, but that today was not that day, and maybe tomorrow wouldn't be either. Theodore cried. I saw him cry for the first time in years. He told me he understood, that he didn't expect me to forgive him, that he just wanted me to know that he regretted it, that he had broken up with Ivana, that he had realized she had turned him into someone he didn't want to be. I told him I was happy for him, but that didn't change anything between us, that he had to live with the consequences of his decisions like everyone else. He left soon after. I didn't hug him. I didn't tell him everything would be fine because I didn't know. I didn't know if we could ever have a relationship again. I didn't know if I wanted to have one. But I did know something. I knew that I would be fine with or without him. I knew I had learned to defend myself, to value myself, to not accept less than what I deserved. That night, I put on the watch. I sprayed on perfume, I picked up the handbag, and I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a 69-year-old woman, a woman who had survived betrayal, pain, loss. But I also saw a strong woman, a dignified woman, a woman who had learned that her worth didn't depend on anyone else, that she deserved respect, that she deserved love, that she deserved to have nice things without having to justify it. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. A true smile, because I understood something fundamental. I had lost my son, but I had found myself. And maybe that was the most important thing of all. Life went on, and I would go on with it. Stronger, wiser, more aware of my own worth, and no one never again would make me feel like I didn't deserve respect, that I didn't deserve dignity, that I didn't deserve to take my place in this world because I deserved it. I always had deserved it. And now I finally knew